Welcome back to the Be Better podcast, where we dive deep into what it really takes to upgrade your life. I am your host, Harris Knorr. As a health and performance coach, the guy behind Primal Energies, and someone who's passionately contributing to changing the lives of others, including my own as a husband and a father, I know the power of change. I know that we can all do better, and I know that we all want to do better. And in this podcast, I want to help give you the action items that can help make the biggest difference in the least amount of effort possible. I want to bring on guests that can go through their area of expertise to help you unravel the mystery of life and ultimately take more action, because in this wonderful age that we are not in a shortage of information. That is for fucking sure. You can chat GPT just about anything and have an answer. So it's less about knowing what to do, more about actually doing it. And so I want to help you guys actually take fucking action on creating the identity, creating the life that you so dream of. And that's how I plan to run this podcast, to give you those action items. This is the Be Better podcast. So welcome back, guys. Harrison here. And in this podcast, I wanted to share a bit of a story about creating confidence in uncertainty. So a bit of a backstory. I never used to resonate with the term confident, right? I never used to consider myself confident, outgoing, charismatic. I would shy away from talking to anyone if I had to. I would feel so embarrassed, so insecure if I had to talk to someone, like even to the point of like having to fucking order takeout over the phone. I would avoid that. I'd get someone else to do it. And in my own, I guess, journey of self-discovery, I eventually realized why this was, right? Most of us are the way we are because of a certain experience in life. And it's not really until you unpack that you kind of figure out where this misassumption or misalignment can come from. And so for me, I know exactly where my lack of confidence came from. And it wasn't really an embarrassing story, right? And so I'll share it with you now, because I don't really care about sharing this. And I hope this helps somebody else to become confident. That's the reason that I want to share this, because I want you guys to be as confident as you so choose, to be able to go after your dreams, to be able to put yourself out there, to be able to do what it takes and make the changes necessary to live your life by design, not by default. And so for me, this was when I was in year 6. And so I remember being in year 6, and there was myself, one of the popular girls and one of the popular guys standing outside this classroom. We were knocking on this teacher's door because we were sent to run an errand from our class to tell this guy something. And they were standing there and they were talking about this other girl in our year. And they were saying that she was getting paid to take the trash out on the Thursday night, would take the bins out for the elderly neighbors, right? For these old people. And she was doing that for quite a few people just to make some money. And I made the offhanded comment, oh, that's pretty sad. Pretty sad that for the old people that they couldn't even take their own bins out. That was in my mind the frame that I was saying that concept. I'd feel pretty bad if I couldn't even take my own bin out. That's not a great quality of life. But they clearly didn't take it that way. They thought that I was saying, well, that's pretty sad that you have to take other people's trash out to make money and whatever else. And then so they proceeded to mock me and to laugh at me and to belittle me, and ganged up 2-on-1. And I wasn't the most confident person then either. And so that really affected me. And the reason, and I don't say this as a story that crushed my confidence, because from this event I painted this guy as being the biggest asshole that you could ever imagine. And I considered him beyond confident, but arrogant. And so in my subconscious, in my mind, to make sure that I was never labeled, branded, seen as anyone even remotely close to this guy who I loathed so much, my mind went the other way. We can't be seen as arrogant if we are shy, if we are introverted, if we are submissive, if we just go with the flow, if we don't cause a ripple. Because I had lumped in together and combined arrogance and confidence, and not been able to distinguish the difference, had lumped them in together. As I have matured, as I have grown, as I have experienced life, I now know there is a significant difference between being confident and being arrogant. But my little young brain didn't quite know that at the time, and I carried that with me for a hell of a long time, probably for 20 years, just under 20 years. And the reason that I wanted to share this with you is because there is something, if you're not as confident as you could be, there's a high chance that there is a label or there is an association that you have made subconsciously that is limiting you from being that thing. And so, to use another label, I used to tell myself, I'm not a business owner, I'm not a marketer, I'm not good at social media, I'm not these things. And so, because I'm not any of these things, how fondly do you think I looked on the activities of having to run a business, on having to post on social media, on having to do these things? I would say these things almost as like a protection mechanism of, well, if it's shit, I'm not a social media marketer, I'm not a business owner, as if to say, well, it's not my fault, I'm just not those things. Which is a very limiting mindset. It's like not helpful at all, especially if you have goals to run a successful business and to do all these things, right? And so right now, fast forward from where I was at that stage, to having identified that cause, worked on a few things, and then to now where I am now, I can confidently say that I don't even resonate with a lot of labels that I used to say. I used to call myself shy, introverted. I was socially awkward. I was socially anxious. I was very anxious, and I don't experience any of those anymore. And one thing that I wanted to share and make this podcast for is for those people, because a lot of times in life, there's things that we don't foresee happening. Right, and I want to talk a bit about how I've kind of created this confidence and what I've done recently to enhance this confidence. So one of the things that has been massive for me recently first of all, was dropping what other people thought. Or I should reframe that, is removing my assumptions of what other people thought. And that is a huge differentiation, right? A lot of people say, oh, I'm worried about what other people think. You don't know what other people think. Unless you have asked them or they have told you, you do not know what other people think. You are making an assumption of what you think that they would think, and then you are basing your actions and your feelings off that assumption, which could be wildly wrong. And even in that little conundrum of mindfuckery, there's also the assumption that that other person is thinking about us. There is a high likelihood that they do not care, that they have not given you a second thought. I've had multiple conversations with people and they've said like, oh, what about this or what about that? And that little event or that little wording or that sentence or that little moment that stood out to them did not even register as being noteworthy to the other person. So being able to recognize when we are making assumptions versus the facts that we know can be very helpful in identifying, do I know this for sure? Or have I assumed this? Have I created this in my own head? Because a lot of the times, if we're telling ourselves a self-story of, I'm not confident, they think I'm weird, they're going to laugh at me, and these negative things, naturally, our brain doesn't like to be wrong. So we're going to look for evidence to say, yeah, they were laughing at you. Yeah, they talk behind your back. You're not confident. You're insecure. You're awkward. You're whatever other labels you've associated yourself with. And so that was number one. Identifying the difference between what I know and what I've assumed in terms of what other people may or may not think of me. And then deciding that it's not relevant anyway, because they're going to think something of me, whether I like it or not. And personally, it's none of my business. Right? Every person that you will ever meet, from your mum, your dad, to your neighbors, to your neighborhood friends, to your like colleagues, to your bosses, to your employees, to your partner, to your kids, to anyone you ever meet in life, will always have a different perspective of you in their mind. So for me, my mum knows a different version of Harrison than my sister does, than my wife does, than my clients know, than the people that know me through Primal do, that anybody else might see me on social media thinks of me as. They're all going to see me in a different light when they've been experiencing a different emotion. So some people might think I'm an arrogant asshole. I don't know. Some people might think I'm humble. Some people might think I'm an idiot. Some people might think I'm a nice guy, right? They might think all these different fucking things, but do any of those things actually matter? Do any of them actually change who I am? No, not really. Like sitting here right now, you can channel all your energy into thinking I'm an absolute piece of shit, but that does not change me in the slightest. You can channel all your energy into thinking I'm the best person in the world. Does that change me in the slightest? Not really. And so it only changes your state. So when you're in that space of, I can't control them and what they think, but I can control my state and how I feel, why not choose the frame that allows me to be okay with whatever they think and just be myself, and at least I'm having a good time. And so that frame has been really helpful. But then last year, so about a year ago, or a year next week, my first son was born. And then I was, everything was going well. Primal was growing. I had my coaching job, which is going well. The company that I worked for, I was paid salary, so I had that job security, that financial security, and then so everything I did on top of that was just a bonus. And it was pretty stable. It was pretty it was a good setup. I was happy to bring a child into that because we had the bases covered, and then I had the opportunity to make cream on top with Primal, with commissions, with all that kind of stuff. Great. A couple months later, boss. Yeah, I've had enough of this, dude. So we're starting the handover process, and 6 months I'm going to be out, which means you guys can have it basically, and that means that you'll be on commission only, basically. So no more salary. Cool. So now I've got a son. I've got a wife that's not working because she's on maternity leave, and I now don't have consistent income. I don't know how much I'm going to make. I don't know how often I'm going to make it. And this is the first time ever that I have, in my working life, not been on a salary, been on commission only. It was stressful to say the least. And financial stress is not a fun stress. I hope you don't get to experience it to the depths that some people do. And it's definitely not that bad. We haven't had to sell the apartment or anything like that, so we're counting our blessings there. But it hasn't been easy. It's not fun living paycheck to paycheck. And I say this as a story now because I know eventually one day we'll look back with gratitude and remember when you had to make everything by hand for Primal, and remember when we were in this, remember when we were in that. So I hope that this lesson and this story comes through with that energy. And so I was in this position where, okay, I can be super stressed out about having to now bring in my own clients, about having to look after, not being on a salary, having that uncertainty. How am I going to, and we preach the mindset of abundance over scarcity. When you're scarcity and you're Scrooging everything, then life comes hard and things don't flow to you. And so I'm in this space where I've got to practice what I preach. I can't be in this scarce state and expect life to be kind to me. I need to find my way out of this. I need to find some confidence to now put myself out there more so, because my family, our financial stability is counting on it. And so what I realized is a couple of things. First of all, and I don't mean this in a overwhelming or in a way to beat people down, but everything can be taken from you. So I know a lot of people will say like they have confidence in their stability of their job or of their house or in their partner in these things. And I don't like, just to go morbid for a second, you can lose your house in a severe weather storm. Your wife or your partner can cheat on you and can leave you and take half your shit. Your kids can disown you, or they're only human so they could die. And you could lose your job. Or if you own a business, someone can sue you and it could go bankrupt. Right? Those are not sure, they're unfortunate, but all those things are not out of the realm of possibility. And a lot of those things can happen without your wrongdoing. Weather, can't really control that. Partner cheating on you, okay, if your relationship is kind of rocky, then take half the fault there. But you can't control someone else. They're going to do what they're going to do. Someone suing you might have made a small mistake, but you can't again control other people. And so if your confidence, if your value as a human is weighted by those things, then that puts you in a very vulnerable state. And so I'm a big fan of Alex Hormozy, and I love his story, and I quote him a lot. He talks about his story where he's lost it all twice and managed to rebuild it bigger and better every single time. And the thing he talks about, and this is where he invests all of his money and his confidence and his drive, is his skill set and his knowledge. Because you can take everything from a man, from a woman. You can take their partner, you can take their job, you can take their business, you can take their money, you can take their family, you can take everything, but you can never take their skill set, their experience, and their knowledge. Unless you kill the person, unless you kill me, you are not able to take those things from me. So you can wipe my name clean, you can do all those things. But if you've got the skill set and the knowledge and the experience of making money, of building a business, of building a personal brand, of building these things, then you become very hard to destroy. You become very hard to shut down. And you also become very valuable as an individual because you can create those opportunities for yourself and you can build them back up. And so that's where I managed to find confidence in this time of uncertainty, is how do I make sure that no matter what happens in the future, if this current business arrangement with the coaching falls apart, one of the other coaches is like, you know what, fuck you guys, I've had enough, and takes all the money, or we split up or anything like that. If that happens, if something else happens and I want to take a different direction in life, if something that I don't even see as being an option right now happens, and I am left with myself, my skill set, my knowledge, my experience, what experiences, skill sets and knowledge do I need to have enabled to feel confident that I can make more money, that I can build another business, that I'm going to be okay, that I can look after myself, that I can look after my family, provided they're still here, that I can do all those things. And for me, that has come back to some of the core overarching skill sets and knowledge of business. It originally was sales and marketing. Right? If you know how to sell, if you know how to market, you are valuable in just about any industry. And so I've now gone one step higher, thanks to going to a couple of Tai Lopez's events and listening to a lot of his stuff recently. And look, when I do my research and my reading, now looking into psychology and human behavior. Because when you can understand how humans behave and how humans think and operate and how they make decisions, then you can persuade people with marketing, with images, with copy, with words, with sales. And then it doesn't matter what product or service that you're selling, you have this innate understanding of a human being. And I think that's not just from a money-making perspective, but just from a understanding, connecting perspective, being able to understand someone almost on a level deeper than they understand themselves, I find very interesting and very powerful too. And so the reason that I wanted to share some of these lessons and where I'm at now is so that if you're in a space right now where you're uncertain, if you're in a space where you don't feel confident, if you're in a space where you're trying to find that certainty or that confidence, or you recognize that as a stepping stone as part of your journey to where you want to be or who you want to be, then I hope some of these lessons I hope they serve you. And ultimately, if you're not confident in something, there's probably a reason for it, right? It would be delusional for you to be confident in something that you've never done before. And so I think it's worth differentiating being confident as a human, like as yourself, being confident as yourself versus being confident at a skill, right? I think you can be confident as a person, like as being confident as a person enables me to talk on camera, to have conversations, to engage in social interactions and not feel awkward, to do those things. But being confident at a skill set is its own thing, right? So I think everyone should be at least some level of confidence in themselves to be themselves, first of all, without fear of judgment, but then also to, pursue what they love and who they love. But just because you're confident as a person doesn't mean that carries over into skill set. Doesn't matter how confident you are as a person. If you've never flown a plane before and you step into a cockpit, you would be fucking delusional to think that you can learn to fly a plane just by looking at all the shit and by sheer confidence. Not going to work. So I think being confident as a person to learn new things, to challenge yourself, to grow, to put you in environments where you can level up and grow, because that takes confidence in itself. And then recognize what are the skills that I need to be confident or proficient in, and then just practice. Volume, 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 volume. And then you build that confidence with evidence through the actions of doing those things. Like, it has taken me hours, days, weeks, months of talking to myself on a fucking camera, of talking on coaching calls, of having group coaching calls, of recording things like this to get to the level of where I am now, of being able to talk with this kind of energy, right? I am nowhere close to being perfect, to being amazing, but if you saw where I was in how I communicated years ago, it's a huge freaking difference. But I'm only going to get better as well by practicing, by doing this more. And eventually, if you're in the future from now a couple of years, when I've got hundreds of these podcasts under my belt, you'll be able to look back and listen to this one and notice the difference in how differently I use my voice. I know I can get excited, so maybe I ramble and I talk really fast sometimes because I get excited and don't know when to pause and I don't know when to choose my tonalities, and I need to slow down. So maybe I'll get better at pausing, at emphasizing my point without feeling like I have to jam everything I want to say into 10 seconds. So that's all I want to say for this episode. I hope that's been helpful for you. And if it has, please drop me a note. Please leave it, you don't have to leave a review, but please send me a message where you're at in your journey, like how confident you are, if that's something that you're working on, if any of these stories even resonated with you, what you think of them. And if you do use any of these things that I've kind of mentioned, let me know how you go. I'd love to hear, in what realm you want to be more confident, how it helps you, and then what you're able to do with that confidence. If it's just to go and talk to someone, talk to a new group of people, give a public presentation, maybe even start posting content on social media, whatever that might be. So that wraps up another epic podcast episode of Be Better. Now, I hope you just don't listen to this podcast purely for that mental masturbation. As much as I'm flattered you enjoy my voice that much, I would much prefer you to actually take action on what you've heard today. And you can start by either reaching out to me or rating this podcast, dropping a comment, letting me know that you are taking action. Because I love action takers, because they're the ones that are going to change themselves and ultimately change the world. So it would actually mean the world to me if you could reach out, drop a rating, leave a comment, and if it sparks something in you, if this has triggered something in you that's resonated, that makes you want to be more confident, find that certainty, or just be better, I urge you to lean into it. Take action, even if it's something small, even if it's just saying more than hi to someone you see on the street, even if it's just maybe posting a selfie or posting something that would normally be outside your comfort zone, just to start practice reaching out, getting outside that comfort zone and building that confidence up. Start the reps of whatever it is you need to do to have that skill, to have that knowledge, to have that experience and that power, to have that confidence in becoming the person you want to be that can create the life that you want to create. Now you've got the knowledge, go get the experience, go take action. Remember, don't be sorry, be better. See you in the next episode.